This is one of my favorite projects, the beautiful Spaceless Project. And what I like about this picture is Zan. You all can see Zan there. Look at her face. Look at her body language. This is what happens when you get kids excited about their learning. Zan is a first grader here, and she's pointing out all the great spaces, everything that they did in this project. This project was a garden project where they built an entire garden right in front of our school, and they used a lot of science principles. They did a lot of reading and writing associated with it, and so they incorporated several subjects into this work. I like it because it's a lower elementary project, and sometimes there's a lot of criticism about being able to do projects in lower elementary. But I can assure you it can get done, and it has been done. Here's another project from lower elementary, our kindergarten playground project. And I'll give you a second if you want to read that. But this is an editorial that our kindergarten students wrote to put in our local newspaper, because every Monday they come in from school, and our kindergarten playground does not have a fence around it. And so it's open to the whole community. You're reading. Open to the whole community. And so our kids were frustrated about the fact that when they came in on Monday mornings, there was trash all over the playground and litter. And so what they did was their teachers decided to move on that passion and have the kids do something about it. So they started by writing this editorial paper to the community to raise awareness. They were collecting data for weeks before to see exactly how much trash there was in the playground, and then they took data the following weeks after the article to see whether it went down. And indeed, the amount of trash went down after the article was published. But that's not all they did with this. They went further and created rules for their playgrounds with signs and everything. So here's a sign from the playground. These signs are all over the elementary school and our playground. So you can see, obviously, they did the art themselves. And the words are their words, but we had the sign company actually, put the letters on. This is another project. This is a 7th grade math measurement project. One of the things we learned with project-based learning is that when you have problems in the district, what typically happens when you have a problem? Who solves the problem? The adults, right? The administration. So what we've decided to do, and what we've learned through our work with PBL over the years, is that when we have a problem, we think, how can the kids solve the problem for us? And so we had a problem. We bought all these laptops, like so many of your district did, to prepare for online testing. But the problem is we couldn't afford the laptop carts to go with them, which are really expensive, by the way. And so we had a great math teacher who's actually here today. He'll be here to talk, who came up with this idea and said, well, why don't we have our kids actually build the carts for us? So we said, okay, well, he's a 7th grade math teacher, so here the 7th graders come in, and literally within the first week of school, the kids were building these laptop carts. So they started in teams. The teams met with teachers and built empathy by learning and interviewing the teachers and finding out exactly what they wanted their carts to look like, the dimensions, the art, everything that these particular teachers wanted on their projects. And then they went out and did several iterations of the project, including paper iteration. They did They did iteration using cardboard, and each stage they got feedback from their peers and then went back and learned again some more. Then, once they had their final iteration done, they went to Lowe's as a whole class. So the whole class, 7th grade, went to Lowe's. They blocked off a few of the aisles for us, and the kids had a dollar amount that they could spend in their group. And they went and basically bought what they needed on their own, given that dollar amount. They took the materials back to school, and they went. Remember I told you about the work being done in the hallways? Well, we got smarter with that. And they went into an old football room where we were actually doing weightlifting, a weight room, and they took all the weights out. And that teacher, who was so passionate about PBL, brought his own equipment from home to do this work. And so all the equipment the kids did was purchased by the teacher and his own personal equipment that he lent to the kids and to the classroom to do this work. And he's done it many times since. And so here are the kids actually using a saw to cut the wood and do the project. And here's the final result of one of those. A Doctor Who fan, one of our teachers is. And so there were lots of these around. This was one way to teach measurement. It took 6 weeks, Jack, or 5? 6 weeks. 6 weeks to teach measurement in 7th grade. Now think about how you could teach measurement in a traditional fashion in probably about 2 to 3 weeks maybe, and get through that unit and move on. See, the thing is, PBL takes longer, but our kids are learning in more depth. Here's another great project, and I'm not going to do this justice at all. We have a few kids who are part of this project here today that will talk more about it with you. But basically, this is a food for thought project where we had a food expo for our entire 9th grade team, where all of our kids worked together, and I think there were 6 subject areas included, or was it more? 6 or 7 subjects, where the kids were working together in groups. So we had 6 or 7 high school teachers working together on a project and trying to integrate as best we could with this project. And it went very well, where they created a food expo featuring lots of different food items, takeaways, and 15 different food tasting plates as well. This is the first time we actually did exhibition day as well as exhibition night. So we practiced with our first graders and asked our first graders to come up to the high school so the high school kids could show them the work and practice them. So here's some pictures of our high school kids showing off their booths to first graders. Just a couple examples of the booths you see here. So there's a fast food booth. The kids were focused on that. We also had a slow food booth. We had a booth about seasonings. We had booths about bees. We had booths focused on buffalo that I think the student actually shot himself and had tastings from that buffalo at the actual food night. We had, anybody know about blue zones? I didn't know about blue zones either, but our kids do. And maybe they'll talk about that too in a little bit. This is the exhibition night itself when our parents came out. And you can see an example of our kids actually talking to the parents about the project. And the amount of engagement our kids did, where they were actually going out and pulling the community in instead of just sitting back passively and waiting for them to come to them, was a huge success for us as part of that project. This next slide is a feature of our first presentation of learning. We were very much inspired by the movie Most Likely to Succeed. And one of the things that we liked from that movie was how they used the presentation of learning at that school. And so we decided we wanted to adopt it. Our middle school team was the first team to do this. And so you see in these pictures 4 teachers, 3 students, and a set of 3 parents. So 3 different sets of parents as well in the room. They did a presentation of learning where they reflected on their project and presented their reflection to their teachers and their parents in the same room. And then the teachers asked some really difficult and challenging questions of the kids. They asked the kids to give themselves warm and cool feedback on their work in front of their parents and their peers. They asked them to give warm and cool feedback about each other in front of their parents and their peers. And normally that might seem a little bit on edge, but for us, we're at a point where we've been giving warm and cool feedback to each other for 3 years straight now. And so our kids know how to critique, and it's second hat to them, and they're able to do it with mastery. And so we were able to pull that off. This is a mini golf biome project. I'm not going to talk a lot about this project, but this was basically they created a mini golf course and included biomes, and there's some math concepts in this as well. But I want you to notice the wood, because you're going to see it again in the next slide. So what we did is we took the wood from the biome project, tore it apart, and again, that was Mr. Hattert at the middle school. And the kids actually built workbenches from the wood from the Biome project. So here they are actually working in that same former football weight room on this project. Here they are actually putting the actual tools on the wall. We got a small grant for $18,000 to buy some of the tools, and we're going to try to get another grant for $18,000 next year to finish the space. And here's some of those workbenches, so you can see the familiarity between the blue from the workbench. And this is all done by the kids. The kids are doing all the work. What I want to say about this is you can see the tools right here. The kids went further and decided to put QR codes on each of the tools. They filmed themselves teaching other people about how to use the tools, proper use of the tools, and then the QR code directly links to those videos on YouTube. Pretty powerful work. I'm going to skip this one because of time. I know I'm going too long, I think. The Quadrilateral Project was an elementary project where they worked on going out in the community and looking at quadrilaterals and identifying them, and then taking pictures of them. This is Anthony on the right. You're going to see him in a few minutes. And they did some photojournalism. They really learned about being a photographer from a professional photographer. And I love this picture because here they are critiquing each other's work, and you notice there's no teacher present there. These are 4th graders. 4th graders. This is a great project where our AP art kids basically created an entire art show from scratch, including finding a gallery, auditioning for the gallery, framing their work, and everything that's involved in that. And this is actually a drawing that was created by a student, and that's actually Azza, who is here today as well, whose picture is actually in that drawing. Last project is a Gaga Pit project, and this is our elementary schools. Our kids are very interested in Gaga. Anybody know about Gaga? It's all the rage now. It's an Israeli dodgeball game that's done in a little bit of an octagon. It's crazy. Our kids are really into it, so our gym teacher felt, let's create a Gaga Pit. So the kids build a Gaga Pit, and then they build another Gaga Pit, and just recently, they built an entire Frisbee golf course at the elementary school and at the high school. And this was all from our phys ed and health teachers. So